You just watched a wild Week 12 win. And before we even finish celebrating, there's one piece of news that shifts everything. Trey Smith suffered a low-plus-high ankle sprain, and it's highly likely he'll miss the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That's not just a roster blip. It's a tactical problem that changes how the Chiefs have to protect Patrick Mahomes against one of the NFL's nastiest interior fronts. Let me break this down for you the way I'd want to hear it if I were in the stands. Trey Smith is one of the Chiefs' best guards when he's healthy. He's the kind of presence that lets Mahomes feel the pocket, step into throws, and buy time to climb in the pocket. With Trey likely out, the Chiefs shift Mike Caliendo into the lineup at right guard. Creed Humphrey will have to do more help work, and Josh Simmons will keep handling left tackle. That sounds okay on paper, though, but on Thanksgiving you're facing a Cowboys defensive front, loaded with big, disruptive interior defenders. Without Trey's power and quickness at RG, the gap the Cowboys want to exploit becomes real. You saw it in the Colts game. Mahomes wasn't always comfortable in the pocket. He sped up reads, pushed throws earlier, and you could see a level of distrust in the OL that you don't want against a Dallas front that loves to collapse pockets. That puts extra pressure on Mahomes to make plays earlier, and against a defensive line that includes multiple elite run stoppers and pass rush templates that could make the difference between an efficient game and a turnover or two. So what's the immediate tactical fix? Two things. First, more help from Creed Humphrey. He can slide and chip, and he's going to have to be the internal quarterback of the OL, identifying stunts, helping Caliendo, and communicating shifts pre-snap. Second, play calling needs to protect the line. Quicker releases, max protect looks on obvious pass downs, and more movement, screens, quick game concepts, and rollouts to keep the Cowboys from pinning their ears back. None of this eliminates the problem, but it does blunt what looks like a big mismatch on paper. Let's be clear about expectations. Missing Trey for one game is not necessarily season-breaking, but it's a very bad matchup for Week 13. This is the kind of game where depth gets exposed. Mike Caliendo has done solid work when asked, but the transcript from the Chad Sports video laid it out bluntly. This isn't ideal timing. Creed Humphrey's leadership and a strong game plan will now be the biggest determiners of how comfortable Mahomes plays. If the interior holds up, you still win. If it doesn't, this could be a long Thanksgiving afternoon. Before I move on to the roster move that softened the blow a bit, I need you to do two quick things. First, hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to help us reach 6,000 subscribers. We're covering every injury update and playoff push detail all season, so being subscribed matters. Second, vote in the poll. Will Trey Smith be ready for the Cowboys on Thanksgiving? Yes, no. Drop a quick reason in the comments. What worries you most about the offensive line without Trey? Right when it felt like the Chiefs' Week 12 news cycle was nothing but injury setbacks, Kansas City made a move that actually brought some energy back into the building. Late last night, right after the win over the Colts, the Chiefs added running back Damien Pierce to the practice squad. And this is one of those mid-season pickups that sounds small on paper but could pay off in a very real way down the stretch. Let's walk through what this move actually means for you as a Chiefs fan. Pierce exploded onto the scene as a rookie with Houston back in 2022. Physical runner, downhill burst, surprising balance through contact. He was the type of back who didn't shy away from the dirty work. He racked up over 900 rushing yards that year, and even though things slowed down for him in 2023 and 2024, the talent never disappeared. What he lost was opportunity, consistency, and a clear role. That's exactly why this signing makes sense for Kansas City. You're not bringing in a new starter. You're not replacing Isaiah Pacheco. You're not pushing Kareem Hunt aside. What you're adding is depth, and more importantly, flexibility. Let's start with the offensive side. Pierce can absolutely spell backs in short yardage situations or absorb a handful of carries if the Chiefs need to lighten workloads in certain matchups. He runs physically, he finishes forward, and he still has enough juice to threaten second-level defenders if he gets a crease. But the real value, the part the transcript emphasized hard, is special teams. Kansas City's return game has not been explosive this year. Tyquan Thornton and Nico Remigio haven't consistently given the offense a short field. The blocking has been up and down, but the returners simply haven't threatened defenses with big play ability. Pierce can. Houston used him in return roles across his early career, and he showed vision, patience, and breaking power that fits exactly what Dave Taub wants from a return man. And right now, the Chiefs could use that jolt. This also affects the RB depth chart in another subtle way. If Pierce proves himself quickly, and there's a very real chance he does, he essentially replaces the snaps Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been getting. CEH has struggled badly since being activated, and his inefficiency is costing the offense free yards. With Pierce available, you don't need to force carries to Clyde to justify his spot. You can just play the better option. None of this guarantees immediate action. He's coming in via the practice squad. But don't be surprised if Pierce gets elevated quickly, especially if the Chiefs want a new spark in the return game as early as Week 13 or Week 14. Before we jump into winners and losers from the Colts game, let me hit you with this week's interactive question. Would you put Damien Pierce into return duty right away? Yes or no? Drop your take in the comments. And if you haven't yet, remember to subscribe to help us reach 6,000 subscribers and like the video, so we keep pushing these updates out to you. You love a win, but let's be honest, this one came with a lot of noise. The overtime rally gave us juice, but the tape left us with bright spots and some glaring problems that need fixing. I'll run through the winners first, then the losers, and end with what this means for the rest of the season. First, winners. Rashee Rice. Man, what a game. 12 targets, 8 catches, 141 yards. He finally cleared the 100-yard mark for Kansas City this season, and did it when it mattered most. Those long clutch grabs on the final drive and that 47-yard play to get the overtime drive cooking are exactly the kind of plays that change games. Rice's route running and concentration under pressure gave Mahomes a reliable target when the pocket was getting squeezed, and that's huge. If Rice keeps producing at this level, he becomes the matchup nightmare we hoped he'd develop into. Second, Chris Jones. The big man answered a lot of critics. The video called it one of his best games of the year. An 82 PFF grade, multiple pressures, 2 QB hits, and a stop. More importantly than the raw box score, Jones was consistently influencing the Colts' game plan, drawing double teams, freeing up teammates, and showing the interior. Disruption that can flip an opponent's run game and buy you short yardage stops. When Jones shows up like that, the defense becomes fundamentally tougher to move. Now the losers, and there are a few that really matter. Clyde Edwards-Helaire continues to be a problem when given volume. The clip was brutal. He averaged under 2 yards per carry after being activated, and still managed to soak up snaps that could have gone to a playmaker like Trey Smith. That's not just frustrating, it's inefficient roster usage. If the Chiefs are going to lean on the run as a balance to protect Mahomes, they can't be handing repeated low-efficiency carries to someone who isn't helping move the needle. Next, the edge rush group. The video called out a trio who combined for 54 pass rush snaps and only 2 pressures. That kind of production is unacceptable. You can't expect to rely on constant pressures from the interior alone and have your edge unit go silent. If the Chiefs want to control pass rush matchups against teams that can dictate tempo with their front 7, they need better consistency from the edge. That's an organizational priority. Coaching tweaks, better scheme usage, and possibly looking at the draft or waiver wire for difference makers who actually win one-on-one matchups. What ties these winners and losers together is one central theme: situational efficiency. When Rashee Rice and Chris Jones make game-changing plays, it's because their snaps produced high value. When CEH and the edge group fail, they soak snaps without producing value. And that forces the coaches into awkward personnel and play-calling decisions. You can mask those problems for one game, but over a stretch, and especially heading into a matchup like Dallas on Thanksgiving, the margin for error collapses. So what should the Chiefs prioritize right now? Fix interior protection posture, especially without Trey. Get the edge guys more favorable matchups through stunting and rotation, and stop burning snaps on low-yield RB reps. On the roster front, the Damien Pierce signing makes sense because it gives you an immediate option who can contribute on special teams and bring more efficiency to the RB snaps you're distributing. But long-term, the edge room and the OL depth are the parts of the roster that will decide whether Kansas City cruises into the playoffs or just squeaks in. Before I move into the Week 13 preview, I need your take. In the comments, vote for the team's top priority heading into the Cowboys: fix OL, improve edge, special teams, RB depth. Tell me why you picked that. One-sentence answers only. And if you haven't hit like and subscribed yet, do it now. Help us reach 6,000 subscribers so we can keep breaking down wins and losses like this all season. All right, let's shift gears. Week 13 is here. It's Thanksgiving football, and the Chiefs are walking into a matchup that can either settle the season or ignite a full-blown pressure cooker. The Cowboys are 8-3, physical, fast, and unpredictable. This game isn't just about schemes, it's about resilience, execution, and proving that last week's overtime heroics weren't a fluke. Let's talk about what matters most. First, offensive rhythm. Mahomes has shown flashes of brilliance even in ugly stretches, but this Dallas defense thrives on making quarterbacks uncomfortable. Their edge speed creates forced throws, rushed reads, and dropped passes, something the Chiefs have suffered through all season. But here's the twist. Against teams like Kansas City, the Cowboys often overcommit to pressure packages, leaving space for midfield crossing routes and YAC opportunities. That means Rashee Rice is the X factor again. If he wins early separation and Mahomes stays upright long enough for those routes to develop, Kansas City can chip away at Dallas's aggressive tendencies. Second, the run game. The Chiefs cannot afford another week of inefficient carries. Dallas punishes one-dimensional offenses, so Pacheco needs to be the tone setter. If he can deliver consistent 4 to 6 yard chunks, it forces Dallas to walk safeties down and creates passing windows that this offense desperately needs. Newly added Damien Pierce may get more work here than people think. His north-south style matches well against teams that use lateral pursuit. If he pops for even 2 or 3 meaningful carries, that's enough to keep Dallas honest. Defensively, the challenge is simple: contain explosive plays. The Cowboys live and die on chunk yardage. Pollard on outside stretch plays, Prescott finding his tight ends up the seam, and the WR group, especially Lamb, attacking soft spots in zone. Kansas City must play disciplined, not conservative. That means clean tackling, no free releases in the slot, and forcing Prescott to march the field instead of scoring quick. When teams make Dallas run 10 to 12 play drives, mistakes start piling up. Penalties, tipped passes, forced throws. That's where Chris Jones can take over. If he's as disruptive as he was last week, he can derail entire drives even if he doesn't get home for sacks. Special teams will quietly be a major factor here. The Cowboys' return unit is explosive, and Kansas City has been inconsistent with lane discipline. Only one mistake, one bad kick, one missed angle can flip a Thanksgiving game on its head. This unit has to show up focused. Winning this phase might be the only way the Chiefs avoid playing catch-up. But let's zoom out. What does this game actually mean? A win puts Kansas City back on track and cools off national skepticism. It would push the narrative back toward stability and strength. A loss, especially an uncompetitive one, breathes new life into the storyline that this version of the Chiefs might not be built for a deep playoff run. That's the reality. So the goal is simple: control tempo, protect the football, and win the situational battles. Here's your interactive question for this chapter. Predict the Chiefs' stat leader on Thanksgiving. Mahomes passing yards, Pacheco rushing yards, Rice receiving yards, or Chris Jones QB pressures. Drop your pick in the comments and make it bold. And remember, like this video and subscribe so we can hit 6,000 supporters. Every new subscriber helps us keep covering every big moment of the season. So now that we've unpacked the overtime win, the roster concerns, the bright spots, and the Thanksgiving showdown with Dallas, we need to step back and ask the big question. Is this version of the Kansas City Chiefs actually built for the stretch run? With 6 weeks left, the answer isn't simple. It's layered. Some encouraging, some concerning, all of it real. Let's begin with the positive foundation. Even during a turbulent mid-season stretch, the Chiefs still have the single biggest advantage any contender can ask for: Mahomes and Reed. That combination covers a lot of flaws and allows this team to compete in games where, on paper, they're outmatched. When Mahomes has even competent structure around him, not elite, just competent, he can elevate the entire roster. You saw the spark in the Colts game. You saw what it looks like when his receivers give him something real to work with. If Rice's breakout continues, and if Kelsey settles into a reliable red zone presence rather than a high-volume chain mover, the offensive identity starts stabilizing. Next, the defense. Despite the criticism, this group has shown flashes of being a top-tier unit, especially when Chris Jones is fully engaged and the secondary is playing connected. The run defense, while inconsistent, has improved in leverage battles over the last 2 weeks, and that matters in December football when teams try to shorten games. Even with the lack of consistent edge production, this defense doesn't fold. It bends, it frustrates you, but it rarely collapses for 4 straight quarters. That's the hallmark of a team that can survive into January. But the concerns are just as important to acknowledge. The offensive line, especially on the interior, is a high-variance unit. 1 week they look serviceable. The next week, Mahomes is running for his life inside of 3 seconds. That's the type of inconsistency that can derail a playoff push. Good defenses, Baltimore, Miami, Buffalo, will attack those weak points relentlessly. The Chiefs need to tighten communication, pre-snap ID, and protection rules. You don't have to dominate. You just can't implode. The receiver room beyond Rice is also a question mark. There are spurts of productivity, but not enough reliable separation. When your quarterback has to make superhero throws on high-leverage third downs because someone can't get open, that's a structural flaw. It's fixable, but it requires firm coaching decisions and possibly a narrow snap rotation as the season closes. And then there's the edge rush. If there is one single truth about championship-level football, it's this: you need closers on defense. Guys who finish drives. Guys who end games. Right now, Kansas City is getting flashes instead of consistent pressure. That needs to flip, because playoff offenses don't give you freebies. They punish every weakness. Still, the path is there. The AFC is wide open. No team is flawless. The Chiefs don't need to be perfect, just sharper, cleaner, and more intentional. If the offense keeps trending upward, if the defense maintains stability, and if the coaching staff locks in on personnel efficiency, this team can absolutely surge at the exact right time. Here's your final engagement question. On a confidence scale from 1 to 10, Where do you rank the Chiefs' chances of making a real playoff run? Drop your number in the comments. No explanations, just your gut read. And as always, like this video and subscribe to help us reach 6,000 supporters. You know the drill. Stay locked with Total Chiefs News. Hail Chiefs!